talk high-tech now with Paul Brislen, whose head's about to explode because he's been injecting it with all kinds of technical goodness throughout the whole week, and you just got to let it out now. Let it out.
Let it out, man. Let it out. No, I'm too tired. I'm too tired. I must sleep. Actually, I've got to go up to Whangarei tonight to visit North Power, who are rolling out their fibre network and launching it at 5 o'clock tonight. So,
that's exciting.
Yeah. They've actually got fibre on the go. They've got plans. They've got retail providers who are going to sell stuff, and it's all rock and roll. So, Whangarei will have fibre to the home, as will Hamilton, before Auckland.
Yeah.
It seems quite fitting, really, doesn't it?
I'm resigned to the fact that my street will be the last street in New Zealand.
Ever. I think they're prioritising you ahead of me slightly, because I'm definitely the last street in the world to ever get fibre.
I have low expectations.
700 metres from the exchange, and I can't even get VDSL. Right. So, there's apparently no demand.
No demand. Oh, really? Yeah.
What you can do, though, if you want to check, you can go to the Chorus website, chorus.co.nz, and have a look at their address thing, and it'll tell you whether you're in year 1 and year 2 of the rollout. If you get the big red X, you're not.
I see.
But then year 2 starts next year, so that's we're already well into it. So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want you to explain the story that was on the NBR yesterday, saying that Telecom separation day broadband price rise a body blow, according to the Orcon boss.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So, Wednesday of this week, Chorus was formally anointed on the stock exchange as a separate company from Telecom Retail. So the era of Telecom, as we've known it, has ended. That's gone. Now there are two companies, Chorus, which owns most of the network, and Telecom Retail, which doesn't, but it does own the cell phone company XT, the cell phone network, and has half share in the Southern Cross cable.
Right.
So there are two companies now. They're not allowed to offer each other special deals, and there's no reason for them to either. Chorus has lots of customers. They're all of what they call now the retail service providers, the RSPs, and they are the ones who are going to be selling eventually the fibre network for Chorus. So it's very important that they treat everybody fairly and equitably. At the same time, as part of the wrap-up of the regulatory regime around the copper market, the existing copper stuff, the Commerce Commission was told, okay, you've got to re-average the prices for New Zealand between rural and urban.
Right.
In the past, they've been de-averaged, which meant you could charge more in rural areas than you could in urban areas.
Okay.
And you will have to set these things in stone for the next few years. And basically, for those of us who, like you and I, aren't going to see fibre for many years, we're on copper for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So it's quite important we get the pricing right. And the problem with re-averaging is that rather than the rural price go down, the urban price has gone up slightly.
Okay, so does that mean, what does that mean for the end consumer?
Well, potentially, in particular in the naked DSL market, that's where you buy a phone line just for the broadband and you don't have any voice services on it. It could be $4 or $5 a month more expensive than it is at the moment. So now, that's whether they pass that on, whether they try and wear the cost, whether they do something else. It's all a bit up in the air at the moment. This is a ruling from the Commerce Commission, which said as well what it will do is go out and benchmark New Zealand's costs for naked DSL against the rest of the world, because there are a lot more plans out there now. They can do a good benchmarking study and come back in the middle of next year and say, okay, actually our prices are exactly right, or more likely, okay, our prices are somewhat out of step and we'll need to adjust them. Right.
So does this is part of the problem here, though, that Telecom, even though they're separated, and the Telecom retail arm is still not interested in voice over IP?
Partly that, but also the whole price point for naked DSL in particular is completely regulated. And unfortunately, the Commerce Commission, I think, set the price too high in the first instance. And now that they are in the position of having to encourage people to move to fibre, having a more expensive copper becomes quite attractive, because suddenly you can say, look, not only can you move to fibre and double your speed, but you also get a better price. And that to me is that's not very good. That's forcing people to migrate whether they want to or not. We should be giving people a reason to migrate.
Yeah.
Encouraging content providers to come to New Zealand.
Well, okay.
But instead, we're talking about using the stick.
So that moves us on to the next topic. Now, you heard from someone from Netflix. What was the story?
That's right. So I went to the Computer World iTech IT exhibition earlier this week, and they had Brent, I'm going to say his surname wrong, Airy, who's the Vice President in charge of new product design at Netflix.
Cool.
And he just happens to be a local boy. He's a Kiwi.
Is he?
He's a Kiwi done good.
Great.
So he's over there. He had a fantastic tale to tell about how Netflix operates. They've got this radical notion that what you do is you hire smart people and then you let them do their jobs.
It sounds simple, doesn't it?
That's never going to catch on, is it?
No.
Blimey. Where's the micromanagement? Where are the layers of bureaucracy? Come on, man.
Yeah.
So they've got 800 staff, and his job is to come up with new and exciting ways of getting people to stay on Netflix longer and do more with it. So it's all about the interface, and he had some good stories to tell about how they get all these letters of complaint whenever they make a change. The usual whining goes on. And he said it's quite easy for a company to just freak out at that point and listen to the whinging. But instead what they do is they look at the stats. And last time they changed the interface, they received more hate mail than ever before. And they thought, oh, my God, we've really blown it this time. But the stats showed that people stayed on Netflix longer and downloaded more television.
Yep.
So, too bad. If you don't like it, it's clearly working. And people tend not to ring in to congratulate companies. They just get on. But they do tend to ring in and whinge. So it was quite an important learning, I think. Quite useful. But I asked him, I got the opportunity to say, okay, New Zealand,
yes.
I'm sold. When can I buy it?
Yeah.
And he said, we have no plans to come to New Zealand. So speedy follow-up, what do we have to do to get you to change your mind?
Yeah.
And he said, we need three things. First of all, we need customer demand. And the entire crowd rose as one and said, give us television. And he said, okay, let's tick that box. That's all fine. He said it's not the case in a lot of countries that they go to or look at going to, because some places there's already a lot of competition in that kind of space. But in New Zealand, of course, we've got one pay TV provider. We've got 3 or 4 channels of, a few more now, I suppose, 5 or 6 channels of free-to-air television. But basically, we're very underserved in terms of being able to buy content. So it's a good opportunity for them. So that one's ticked. The second thing he said is you need to be able to, data caps are a big problem.
Yeah.
And their expectation next year for the North American audience is that they will be downloading 1 terabyte of data from Netflix alone every single month.
Each user?
Each user.
Terabyte?
Every user in North America, a terabyte, because Netflix, as you know, is high definition. It's streaming, and the average user over there, they're plotting them on a graph, the average user over there will hit 1 terabyte of data a month by next year.
Now, that's 1,000 gigabytes, yes?
That's 1,000 gigabytes. My plan allows me, and it's just increased, and I'm ecstatic about it, I get 60 gigabytes.
Yeah.
So, I can get 120 gigabytes a month on a good day. So I am just over 10% of the way to the average American user. And that's just for Netflix alone. Never mind everything else, that's for Netflix alone.
So everyone in the audience sat down at that point because that's unsolvable here in New Zealand.
Well, it is and it isn't, because a terabyte sounds like, holy cow, how are we going to get there? But if you think about the costs for an ISP, if that was all international traffic, that would be unsustainable.
Yeah.
That would simply cost you, $20,000 or $30,000 a month each year just to watch television. It'd be ridiculous. So I'm making those numbers up. I've got no idea. But if it's local content, if it's, for example, on Orcon's content distribution network, which they built here in New Zealand, this is all download. It's all streaming stuff. It's not upload, and it's not real time.
Yeah.
Once you've started the movie download, so what they do is they transfer all of the files over to somebody in New Zealand, like Orcon or Akamai, and then it's all served locally.
Right.
Now, that's a different kettle of fish. That is an awful lot cheaper. And I think if we could convince the telcos, Netflix is in town to talk telcos. They were talking with Cordia and Orcon in particular. Then maybe there is an option there. Maybe you get your content 0 rated. maybe, just maybe, a terabyte isn't too scary after all.
Okay, so that's number two, data caps?
Number two. Yeah, the third thing is content rights. They've got to actually have something to sell, and at the moment they can't get them.
Yep.
So at the moment, Sky TV, for example, ties up most of the content rights. They've got to strike deals geography by geography because the rights holders don't like to do it globally. Yep. So it's a big ask for a small country.
So that's the next 3 years out. No more Netflix for the next 3 years.
Basically, yeah. And that means, I said, so what's your view on secure VPN tunnels to the US and changing your DNS settings and all that kind of trickery to get around it? Yeah. And he said I couldn't possibly condone or comment on any of that. Yeah. Whilst fiercely nodding his head. Sorry, Brent, if I get into trouble. Sorry. But yeah, he said basically,
that's what I do.
I'm looking the other way. Don't tell me about it.
That's what I do, and it works fantastic.
Don't tell. And looking at their terms and conditions, they've actually stopped, I think, saying that you have to be living in America to get it.
Really?
They just don't mention it. So I think I might just have another look at that.
They're like, hey, don't mention it.
Just go, don't ask, don't tell. It's the new policy. It's sweeping the world. So yeah, a terabyte is a scary number, and I can see the telcos going, what are we going to do with that? Yeah. But, if it's local content and it's all delivered free or cheaply via the peering exchanges here in New Zealand, then what is the problem? Yeah. So, let's have at it. That'd be fantastic.
That's true, but this whole Sky deal and now TVNZ cozying up with Sky and the national government and all that, it's all locked in at least for the next 3 years. We're not going to see that resolved. And I was just thinking about this the other day, because they've got the Soho channel for an extra $10 a month that has all the great shows, The Wire and Game of Thrones, all these great shows, right? Yeah. I can see now, though, that the DVD releases from those shows will be delayed by Sky now because Sky will want to show them first. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they'll have to make ends meet in the short term. Off Soho.
So
which is $10 extra plus another 10 for high definition. So you're talking about at least $90 a month to watch television instead of the $8 US that's Netflix charge.
So screw you, Sky.
That's your campaign stand.
Yeah, screw you, Sky.
I think we'll elect you next time round on the Give Us Television party. But this is the whole problem with the entire structure of the TV and movie in particular industries. They have this channel model where they sell it to a network, and the network sells it to a wholesaler, and the wholesaler sells it to a regional player, and the regional player sells it to a network provider who may or may not decide to screen it. And us poor punters at the end of the chain sit here going, hey, what about us? We'd just quite like to watch some television. Yeah. It's not that hard. Why don't you just sell it to me? I'll watch it. And unfortunately, they are tied into this model, and it is going to disappear. That whole thing is dead in the water. But in the meantime, I'm afraid, we're a bit stuck with it.
I'm going to continue.
They realise that they're toast.
Continue cutting my cord.
You do that. That is the only way to do it, I say, is, yes. So secure VPN tunnels, what are they, about £8 a month each? $8 a month? Yeah, and away you go. Watch all the TV you want.
Paul Brislen on Twitter, you can continue the conversation there. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
25 minutes.